All right, we'll call to order the Transportation Policy Board, and at this time we'll need approval of the meeting minutes. If I could get a motion to that effect. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any comments on the minutes? Any discussion on those? All in favor say aye. All opposed. Next up is public comments. Do we have anyone from the public wishing to speak to the Transportation Policy Board this morning? I see someone. Please, you're going, I guess, to the podium. State your name and share with us.
Hello, my name is Mark Cleveland. I'm the CEO of Hitch Rewards and a transportation enthusiast. Standing before you today, not for the first time, but speaking in the public comment section, extending an invitation to the regional and local and state leaders who are here today and might be watching. On May 31st, the Transit Citizens Leadership Academy, Transit Alliance, the Leadership Middle Tennessee Organization, Entrepreneur Organization, the Entrepreneur Center of Nashville, several other of the regional-oriented organizations in this community are putting on, together with TDOT support and GNRC, are putting on a Nashville's Drive to Work symposium. It starts at 7 a.m. in the Grand Lodge of Tennessee, which is the Masonic Grand Lodge at 7th and Broadway. Raise your hand if you've ever driven by 7th and Broadway and you know where the lodge is. All right, raise your hand if you've ever been inside it. Well, they don't offer tours, but you have an opportunity to come inside that building on May 31st at 7 a.m. and get a complete insider tour of a 100-year-old building that has seen growth in Nashville at a perspective that I think is worthy of celebrating. And at the same time, we have a keynote speaker from New York City that I think you'll all appreciate the perspective. We're looking to focus on workforce accessibility and workforce mobility with a regional perspective, building perhaps on what Mayor O'Connell has been able to accomplish thus far in support of this transit referendum that we're looking at, but also introducing public-private partnerships that are available to businesses and employers, and that would include cities and counties where public-private partnerships that are inspiring and enabling people to get dignity in work and employment from entry-level all the way up the spectrum, as well as people focused on mobility. Michael Skipper will be one of our speakers. We're going to be talking about the things that we're finally ready to release to Nashville, and I would just want to invite everybody to come. It's May 31st at 7 a.m. It builds on the Choose How You Move, and it will cause us to think differently, we believe, so we hope you will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland. Anyone else wish to speak under the public comment period? Seeing none, we'll close that. We'll move off into our action items. First up under our agenda item 3A, we're going to turn that over to Shay to share with us about these tips.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. So as an overview of the TIP, it is a short-range work program that covers 4 years. It lists all regionally significant and federally funded projects in the MPO area, must be consistent with the Regional Transportation Plan and fiscally constrained. The current TIP is fiscal years 2023 to 2026, was adopted in November of 2022, and accounts for approximately $1.7 billion. An interactive map of all the projects in the TIP is available online at gnrc.org/TIP. So there are 4 amendments today. adding about $8 million in federal funds to the TIP. First is Sumner County's ADA Transition Plan implementation, which includes ADA improvements at pedestrian facilities. This adds about $900,000 in federal sub-allocated Surface Transportation Block Grant USTBG funds for Nashville-Davidson urbanized area for the fiscal year 2024 NEPA design, right-of-way, and construction phase to replace COVID relief or CRISA funds that were previously shifted off of this project due to the debt ceiling legislation that would have rescinded CRISA funds in spring of 2023. And this is the last CRISA-related amendment. Next is Franklin's Murfreesboro Road traffic signal improvements, which will improve traffic operations at 13 signalized intersections along Murfreesboro Road. This adds near $425,000 in federal congestion mitigation and air quality CMAQ funds made available by TDOT for the fiscal year 2024 construction phase that were previously programmed on the fiscal year 2020 to 2023 TIP, as well as adding about $9,000 in local funds. Next is White House's Raymond Hirsch Parkway at US 31W pedestrian signal improvements, which includes pedestrian safety improvements at the titled intersection. This adds about $200,000 in federal LSTBG or local STBG funds made available by TDOT for the fiscal year 2024 construction phase. Lastly is RTA's regional bus service operation. This adds near $6.5 million in federal CMAQ funds made available by TDOT for the fiscal year 2024 implementation phase. And I will pass it back to the chair for any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Shelley or the Seeing none, we'll move to our public hearing portion. Anyone wish to speak on this particular agenda item? Seeing none, then I'll move to have a motion for resolution TP3 2024-04. Have a motion, do we have a second? Second. Any comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That was all of our action items. Next we'll move to our informational items. So next up, we're going to turn it over to Daniel.
All right, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. So I'm here to talk about a planning effort that we're going through at the moment. It's called the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan, kind of a mouthful, so I'll give you an overview of exactly what we're doing, what we've accomplished so far, and why that's important to the region. So the purpose of this effort is really to convene community leaders to prioritize ways to improve transportation options for those who are unable to drive, carless individuals, people who don't have access to reliable transportation, older adults, people with disabilities, veterans, folks that rely on public transportation to get around the region. What's important to know about this effort, it really ensures coordination among the network of transportation providers, public transit agencies, nonprofit providers, as well as healthcare providers, and among grant funders to ensure the needs are met without the duplication of services. These services are a little bit more complicated than typical transportation services, and it really takes a coordinated effort to make sure that the whole region knows exactly what options are available, general public knows what options are available. And it also keeps the MPOs in compliance with federal regulations related to coordinated human services transportation planning that applies to both us, and I'll talk about in a little bit, the Clarksville MPO, as well as the RPOs. So the primary objectives of this effort are to identify the extent to which there are struggles among Middle Tennesseans, talking to folks around the region, especially older adults, people with disabilities, and veterans on the issues that they experience getting where they need to go, regardless of trip type. We're assessing the current offering of those transportation services, their level of service, the cost of funding sources, operations of those agencies, identifying the gaps in service among the current transportation provider network, developing strategies to address those gaps, both from a policymaking and funding mindset. This is just a list of previously funded projects that are made available through this planning effort. Last time we did this plan was in 2017. So just to give a couple of examples, these are all really projects that you are probably familiar with in your community, but on-demand operations improvements by both public transit agencies as well as nonprofit providers, bus purchase and replacement, accessible vans, accessible buses, staffing and administrative needs, expanded service, trip planning and technology improvements, and accessibility and station improvements. And all of these projects help deliver an improved service for folks who need rides going where they need to go. This is our coordinated planning area. You'll probably notice it's larger than our typical MPO area. We're partnering with the Clarksville Metropolitan Planning Organization and including the Area Agency on Aging and Disability because of the fact that Mid-Cumberland Human Resource Agency offers transportation service in all of those counties. So it's a coordinated effort and a great opportunity for us to partner with area planning agencies and transit providers. We've already conducted outreach activities, and those will be ongoing throughout the next few months until the plan is scheduled to be adopted in August of this year. We've gone out to senior centers in both Clarksville and Lebanon, talked with older adults, people with disabilities, folks who access the senior centers. We'll be meeting with transportation providers, so Mid-Cumberland Human Resource Agency, We Go Public Transit, Clarksville Transit, Franklin Transit, as well as nonprofit providers like Senior Ride Nashville, Wilson Rides. You all are probably familiar with those on-demand transit services in your communities, but we're also, we'll be bringing information and are bringing information today to coordinating committees and policy boards of both NPOs as well as the RPOs, and we'll be having community workshops, and we also have an online survey that I'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation. Some of the takeaways that we've heard so far, so we've been asking questions like, how do you get where you need to go? What challenges are you experiencing? What ideas or positive experiences do you have getting where you need to go, whether it's to senior centers, it's to medical appointments, coming to Nashville, going outside the county, going anywhere in the region. And what we've heard so far, so starting with service demands are increasing as the number of transportation disadvantaged grows. We know that our population is aging. We know that the region is growing, as are demands for transportation service and reliable transportation service. We know that funding for that transportation is limited from local standpoint, state and federal funding. We know that the transportation disadvantaged are limited in their income and spending power. They don't always have access to a personal vehicle. They might not be able to drive, and they need transportation to where they need to go. Fixed route service does not serve all of the desired destinations. That's why we're required to have paratransit and on-demand services and in any areas that are offered. Those in need have unique circumstances and uneven access to options. Folks might not be able to get to the bus. Folks might not be able to get to any sort of transit service to get where they need to go, and may rely on family members to drive them places. And then I think one of the really important things that we've heard, which I'm sure our transit agencies could elaborate on, is that transportation providers are experiencing labor shortages and rising costs. There's driver shortages, funding limitations, especially for dedicated transportation funding, as you heard in the RTA meeting. And then finally, what we're asking of you is to help us reach the communities around the region. We've got a survey that's live online at gnrc.org/survey/transportation. I've got some paper copies as well. If you want to find me after the meeting, I'm happy to give those out. But we're really looking to reach as many people as possible. You all are plugged into your communities, may be aware of issues that folks are having getting where they need to go, and we want to hear those issues because we'll be coming up with strategies on how to direct funding towards transportation improvements. And with that, I'll hand it back. Chair.
Thank you, Daniel. Anyone have any questions for Daniel about this transit plan? All right, next we'll move up. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You talked about the surveys being online and coordinating with community-based organizations, are there paper copies at the community-based organizations, because we know that our seniors really aren't going to go online?
Yes, we've been providing paper copies to all the senior centers we've been to, and we're working with senior centers that we haven't been to provide them with paper copies so that when folks come in for daily events like bingo and lunches, that they'll have an opportunity to take the survey.
Then my other question, are you partnering with 50 Forward?
Yes.
Okay. Great questions. Thank you. Anyone else have anything for Daniel? All right, next we'll move up to our other informational item. Before Daniel shares with us about the update to the Regional Transportation Plan, I think Michael has a few comments to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good job with that presentation, Daniel. Daniel's going to also present this next item, but before he does so, I just want to sort of bring your attention to the handouts that we have in the, what do you call that, a nook? It represents sort of the executive summary of the 2045 Regional Transportation Plan that was adopted by the Transportation Policy Board back in February of 2021. This is a really important item, especially given the conversations that happened at RTA this morning in terms of identifying transportation needs across the region, and then getting those transportation projects and needs positioned for state and federal funding as we begin to update our region's long-range transportation plan, and Daniel's going to give you a sense of that schedule here in a minute. The most important thing that we're trying to stress this morning is that we don't want you to miss the opportunity to identify the projects that you want to position for state and federal funding, whether it be the 10-year plan that TDOT has rolled out this year that will continue to be updated, formula funds that flow through TDOT and GNRC for transportation projects, or discretionary competitive dollars that are up in DC that we're going to be competing after. This plan update process is your opportunity to make sure that you're going to be eligible to compete for those state and federal funds that are coming our way over the next 25 years. The first step in updating the plan, I think, is to familiarize yourself with the existing plan. Again, this is the executive summary, but if you go to gnrc.org/transportation, you can get into a lot of interactive maps and databases to understand what this board adopted back in 2021. So with that, I'll turn it over to Daniel.
All right, thank you, Michael. So just as a reminder, this is a federally required plan for all MPO areas. It has to cover 20-plus years and account for all federally funded and regionally significant projects, regardless of implementing agency. It has to be fiscally constrained. It has to address 10 federal planning factors and national performance-based planning requirements. You may recall different performance-based requirements like safety targets or system preservation targets that you all have voted on in the past. That's obviously included in this effort. And it has to be updated every 5 years. As Michael mentioned, the last update was adopted in February of 2021. So this is just a slide on the adopted plan that spans out to 2045. The plan update will span out to 2050. Obviously adopted in February of 2021, allocates about $10.5 billion in federal formula funds and state transportation dollars for the region. It includes an analysis of existing infrastructure and forecasted conditions, identifies strategies for addressing roadway, bridge conditions, traffic congestion, roadway safety, active transportation options, really any transportation issues that we're dealing with in the region can be found online at gnrc.org/transportation. This is a map, a regional map, maybe a little bit hard to see the yellow. But these are projects by planning horizon. We split up funded projects by planning horizon. So 2025 would be that short term, 2035 would be the midterm, and 2045 would be the long term, and then unfunded needs would be in yellow. Just one thing to note, just because a project might be funded in the long term doesn't mean it's not in need of funding at the present moment. It just means that funding might not be available for those projects sooner. And then, of course, unfunded needs. I think this effort is really a good opportunity for all of you to look at what projects you need so that when we come to our call for projects, you'll be ready to tell us about the needs that you have in your community so that we can evaluate for funding. Here's the timeline for our major update. We've already begun working on some of the data portions, so base year conditions, the model development and forecasting. Max Baker, our research analytics director, you may have heard him talk about that in the past, but we're already going on, and those efforts will be conducting technical studies and analysis and updating some of the data sources that inform the plan and help us evaluate projects, as well as the policy framework. You may remember goals and objectives and strategies in that policy framework that inform the plan and serve as the framework for the plan. And then I think most importantly, for all of our locals and everyone in this room, we'll be opening our call for projects in January of 2025. That'll be an opportunity for you to submit your transportation projects and needs in the region out to 2050. So be prepared and look at your community's needs so that when we get to that point, we can have conversations and evaluate projects for funding. And then in April to May, another important thing to note, we'll be going through county level work sessions. This will be an opportunity for you to meet with us as well as your staff to talk about the projects that you submitted in the call for projects and opportunities for funding through the regional transportation plan going forward. During that time, we'll be drafting and doing project prioritization on the staff level, and then review and adoption throughout that next year into early 2026. And then, of course, implementation and monitoring to see how those investments are playing out, if we're delivering projects, what additional funding needs we might need throughout that time. And with that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Any questions? Matt?
Hey, I appreciate that, Daniel. I do want to say that TDOT is going to be kicking off their statewide plan update around the same time, so this would be a great opportunity to coordinate, and especially during the work sessions and potentially the call for projects, how we can work together to make sure that we are seamless in our plans.
I agree. We'll keep in constant contact.
All right, thank you, Matt. Anyone else have any questions for Daniel? It's going to be an important project, so if you have some questions, I'm sure as you come up, you'll want to reach out about that. All right, next up, we're going to move to our regular reports. First of all, from Federal Highway, Melanie, are you sharing with us today?
Yeah, I'll do the report today. Thanks, everyone. A few things I wanted to share with the board today. You may have heard, maybe through the grapevine, but we did get appointed a new division administrator for the Tennessee Division office. A few of you might remember him. He actually was the first acting division administrator we had after Pam left the division. Dan Hinton from the Georgia FHWA division. We're all very, very excited. He has a ton of experience with the agency. I think has been with FHWA for over 30 years, and really I felt like did a great job leading our division. So we're excited to have him in as a permanent role, and he'll join us June 16th, the week of June 16th, and we'll make sure to bring him out as soon as we can so you guys get to know him and kind of just see what he brings to the division office. So excited for that, and yeah, I think y'all will be excited to work with him as well. Wanted to quickly provide an update on the greenhouse gas performance measure. I know we talked about it briefly a couple months ago, and just to refresh your memory, there was a final rule requiring state DOTs and MPOs to adopt targets regarding greenhouse gas emissions, adopt declining targets regarding greenhouse gas emissions, and that got challenged in court, and then late in March, a district court in Texas nullified that rule kind of across the board nationwide. So as of now, state DOTs and MPOs are no longer required to set a performance measure for greenhouse gas emissions. That is all we know as of now. If that changes, we'll make sure to provide information to the board on that. But just want to kind of close the loop on that. That's why there's no more discussion on at least setting that target as of now. Also wanted to kind of provide another update on the adjusted urban area boundaries. I know late last year the MPO updated those boundaries. They have been submitted to FHWA, at least the division office, along with all the other MPO boundaries. We're holding those until TDOT finishes doing all the small urban areas, so every urban area kind of across the board, which they're on track to finish in June. We have to submit everything to HQ for review in one big package, so we can't kind of send some ahead of time when others aren't done yet. So we're hoping to wrap that up late summer. But just so we have looked at them, I don't see any issues, or I don't see that boundary changing much, or if at all, based on HQ's review, but did just want to provide a quick update on that. They're kind of sitting with us for the time being until we can send everything up for review and approval. And then lastly, did just want to make note of a new funding opportunity that's out there, the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program. This is a brand new program that provides $44.5 million for active transportation projects. So they're awarding planning and design grants to develop plans for active transportation networks and active transportation spines. So think about kind of creating a network within a community versus maybe doing a spine to connect communities, connect places, and then construction grants to construct projects to provide safe and connected active transportation facilities in those networks or those spines. Eligible applicants include state DOTs, MPOs, and local and regional governments, and applications for those are due June 17th. I didn't see them listed on the grant opportunity, so I just wanted to make note of that opportunity for y'all.
Thank you, Melanie. Like some of those other grants, do they first have to have a planning?
For this one, no.
Okay.
No, yeah, that's a great question. So this one's a really great opportunity if y'all are, wanting to maybe go for the SS4A grant where that's a requirement to have that plan and then that implementation, and maybe there's a good amount of overlap. Maybe it's already an active transportation-focused project. This might be a good one to look into since it doesn't have that requirement of you have to have a plan in place to go for the construction.
All right, thank you for that. Anyone have any questions for Melanie while she's here? She says she has a ton of money to give all of you. All you have to do is
I wish
ask.
I had a ton of money to give out, but
All right, thank you, Melanie.
thanks.
Next, we'll go to TDOT. We've got Matt with us, going to share some updates.
Sure, we'll do a little tag team here. Jay will follow me, but I wanted to update you all on our transportation planning grants. As you may have known, we received about 30 to 40 applications. We narrowed it down to 19 of those. There were 2 that fell within the Middle Tennessee area, a safety study for Nashville, and also a corridor study in Lebanon. Those 2 are in their final stages of kickoff, so those should be moving forward pretty well. That's that. Multimodal access grants, about 40 LOIs were received. 6 of those were in Nashville. Sorry if it disappeared on me. We had Murfreesboro, Nashville, Smyrna, Mount Juliet, Brentwood, and Ridgetop apply to those. The next step of this is to vet them through for eligibility and accuracy, and then open up the full application window from May 28th to July 15th. So I wanted to update you on both of those. I think I'm done. Any questions for me? If not, let me hand it to Jay.
Hey, good morning, folks. Board, I want to give a quick update on what's going on in Region 3. So I'm Jay Norris. I'm the Region 3 Director, and in the back of the room here, I have some of our TDOT staff. Guys, can you raise your hand? Our project managers, so they are here to talk about projects if we need to do that. So we've spent a lot of bandwidth over the last 3 or 4 months talking about the Transportation Modernization Act and our 10-year plan, and I'm looking around the room, and I think that myself or our team has met with most of you guys to talk about projects that are in the 10-year plan, programmatic funding like resurfacing bridge and how those are going to be tackled. So I want to, the work, Daniel, you're going to be doing on the regional transportation plan is going to be really, I think our 10-year plan plays right into that because you can clearly see what's on the plan and what's not on the plan, and it'll help you guys understand a path forward. So if you don't have a copy of that, you can simply Google TDOT 10-year plan, and you'll find a PDF of it. And we're glad to answer any questions that you may or may not have about that. So the regional transportation plan will be very important, and then our statewide partnership program that will probably be advertised between Q3 and Q4 will be something you'll need to keep your eyes on. So as far as departmental updates, I wanted to update you all on our P3 process. So we got authorization last year to enter into public-private partnerships. We are beginning to stand a program up. So one of the things we've done is we've hired staff. Mr. Brian Ledford will be our director of that program, and he's building a team. You've probably seen news that we've identified the I-24 corridor between Nashville and Murfreesboro to be our first project. We're currently looking at limits and we began NEPA on that corridor. There's some survey work going on. We plan to have a RFP out in the first quarter of 2025. So we're getting that proposal built. We're looking at a template, a footprint of how wide this corridor needs to be. So just to be clear, is we're looking at 2 lanes in each direction and building that out. And so we'll be taking a look at interchanges, and some of those will have to be rebuilt and right away around those. So that's progressing well. I did want to mention that we have a new asset management contract. We've hired 2 contractors to take care of highway maintenance on our interstates in Middle Tennessee. So Davidson County and I-24 and I-65 North is one contract, and the rest of Middle Tennessee, so 40, 65, 24 South, 840 is part of another contract. So these contractors are on board that begin they're in their 4th week now, and so you're not going to see as many TDOT trucks on the interstate. You'll see our contractors' trucks, and we're pleased with their progress, and they're doing a good job. So as far as projects, I did want to mention that Nolensville Pike has begun construction in the south part of Davidson County. Project is going well. It's pleased with what's going on out there. Phase 1 is moving utilities, and that'll be kind of the first 15 months of the job. The other project that isn't in this the footprint of the MPO, but it's our Trousdale County 141. It's a connector piece. It's our last section to be connected, and it includes a bridge over the Cumberland River. That is a $93 million project that we're very excited to get off the ground. As far as next year is going to be pretty exciting for us. So we're going to be widening Davidson, Sumner, I-65, so from Rivergate Parkway up to Millersville. We'll be taking bids on that. We're going to begin NEPA on replacing the Cumberland River Bridge here in the inner loop on the north side. That'll be a very large project for us. It'll be our first progressive design build. And we have 2 sections of the Portland Bypass, Chairman, that we're excited to let and get underway. And then, Jim, down in Rutherford, we'll have State Route 99 and C68. So those are all very large projects that will take a lot of bandwidth for us to deliver. So I did want to finally end on, there's some good news here, and the bad news is, we love talking about potholes. So I wanted to give you all an update there, is that our, this winter weather event we had was very trying on us. That Monday of the snowstorm was the most snow that Middle Tennessee's received in a 24-hour period in 30 years. So it was a significant event, and then it got very, very cold, single digits. And so that weather found every weak spot we had, is the best way to say it. And so our crews have worked very hard to patch potholes. And the challenge is when you're using cold mix, because hot mix plants aren't open, sometimes it'll last 2 hours, sometimes it'll last 24 hours, and you got to repatch it. So it's a lot of multiple trips to all these places till things get warm and get hot mix out there. So we probably spent about 50% more this year than we've spent in the last couple of years combined on potholes and repairs. We've added multiple crews out there. We've had a contractor out there, and the department gave us another $15 million statewide to do some patching paving with that we're going to administer. So over the next 8 to 10 weeks, we'll be getting milling machines and pavers out there and dealing with a lot of these patches. So you'll see that coming along. So if you have any project questions, myself or our team in the back will be glad to give you guys updates on those. If you have any pothole comments, you probably bring those to me. They'd probably be best to come to me. I don't think our project managers, they can take them, but I'll be glad to address those. So that's it for me. Thank you for your time.
Anyone have any questions for Jay or Matt while they're here with us? And let me encourage you, they brought a staff. You've got projects, and you may have questions. They're here, and I appreciate them bringing staff to answer those questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Chairman, I did want to mention that we brought a handout, if you're interested, that talks about our resurfacing program. It talks about our large projects and our bridge projects. So if you want to look at the 10-year plan, you can do that online, or you can take one of these to go with you.
I appreciate them. Jay and his staff took a lot of time to meet just a few months ago. We had a great conversation. Matt and I were able to sit down here recently, and I'm excited about the planning process with TDOT and with the NPO coming together and making sure everybody's on the same page. That's going to be a wonderful opportunity for us, so it's perfect timing. So any questions for TDOT staff at this time? All right, just a couple things for me. Thank you for, this is my first meeting to chair. I noticed my friend Jeff Peach came to spy on me while I was here for my first meeting, which is always good. He keeps an eye on me too. So Billy told me not to tell any jokes, keep it quick, gotta go. And so I think we've tried to accomplish that, but I do appreciate the opportunity to be with you and to chair. And so with that, I'll turn it over for staff report. Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things to share with you this morning. The first is the regular TIP status report is in your packet. Just to bring your attention to that last handout. To refresh your memory, the TIP, the 4-year transportation improvement program that spans 2022 through 2026, includes over $1.8 billion worth of transportation investments. A little over half of that is sourced from Federal Highway Administration grants. This is a report that will track the obligation of this federal highway grant as we move through the TIP. The quick performance measure on this, though, is comparing the amount of federal funding that has been obligated since the adoption of the TIP within the context of the amount of time that has elapsed since we adopted the TIP. And so we have obligated 32%. When I say we, I mean local governments through TDOT, and then also the state managed projects that TDOT is obligating through the federal system. So 32% of that funding being obligated, and we're at 40% of the time elapsed. So we're a little bit behind schedule in terms of looking at the calendar. We're hoping some rather large projects get obligated relatively soon to get us caught up. But if you're interested in those specific obligations, particularly for locally managed projects, you'll find that in the TIP status report. The TIP status report also provides you an accounting of all the grant opportunities that are out there. And Melanie, we appreciate you offering that additional one this morning, so we'll add that to the list. And so with this, we'll track the opportunities that are out there, as well as the number of applications and the successful applications that are coming out of our region. So that is the TIP status report. A couple other things to share with you before we adjourn. Look at upcoming meetings. The Transportation Coordinating Committee, which is the staff, the local government jurisdictions, as well as state and federal agencies that are involved in the NPO process. They will be convening in our offices on June 5th. Another look at the TIP status report. Also, Taylor Lee, our project delivery coordinator, will be giving a presentation on tips and tricks to get your projects ready for obligation a little more quickly. He comes to us from TDOT and can give you some insight into what you could be doing locally to get through the TDOT process a little bit more efficiently. And then June 26th will be the next convening of our regional council body. It's a really big meeting. We'll have the annual work program and budget for presentation and adoption that morning. We'll also have our annual election of officers that day. I think a couple more things before I wrap up here. I want to introduce Emery Hart, who joins us from AECOM, and she also spent some time at WSP, formerly known as Parsons Brinkerhoff. Many of you have worked with Emery over the last several years. She's joined our team to help manage our outreach efforts related to the NPO process, particularly the update to the regional transportation plan, but will also lend her expertise to anything we're really doing as an organization that impacts the built environment, so community development, infrastructure planning that we do across Middle Tennessee. She will be involved with. And then finally, just again, great job, Daniel, presenting the coordinated human services transportation planning activities on behalf of a really large team back at GNRC who's working on this. It's been really, I'm very proud of the way our 80 employees have come together to work on that effort. Many of you know about half of our employees are social workers who are in the trenches helping older adults get the help that they need on a daily basis. And this has been a way for us to tap into their direct experiences with older adults to influence the upstream planning and the decisions that we're making around policies and funding to make sure that they can get around as they need to. It's also been a great experience working alongside the Mid-Cumberland HRA, which many of you serve on that board as well, and of course WeGo and our nonprofit partners that are providing really important transportation services. And so it is a federal required document, and we've got to do it, but it's been a lot of fun going through that process so far, and we look forward to getting that wrapped up for you all in the near future. So with that, I'll conclude my report, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Any other business before we adjourn? Looking for a motion? Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, guys. Leave the name.
I gotta hang up.